Hello, my name is Carolyn. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a video on species characterization. I have created this video for my biology course and for my professor, who is Dr. Carlos Ruiz. So by now you may have guessed that I've chosen the polar bear as my topic. The reason why I've chosen the polar bear is because as a child I was completely fascinated with the polar bear. I found it very majestic and mysterious and powerful. So that's my topic. So Constantine Phipps discovered the polar bear in 1774, and the scientific binomial name is Ursus maritimus. Taxonomy for the polar bear is genus Ursus, family Ursidae, order Carnivora, class Mammalia, phylum Chordata, kingdom Animalia, and domain Eukarya. Polar bears are extant. Polar bears are actually the largest extant species and carnivore on land. Scientists are predicting, however, that if the global warming trends continue as they are, we may see the extinction of the polar bear by the turn of the century. The polar bear geographic distribution is actually throughout the circumpolar of the Arctic among 5 countries. So that would be Canada, Greenland, Norway, which is Svalbard, Russia, and the US Alaska. There are 19 populations of polar bears in the Arctic, and 60% of the polar bear population is actually in Canada. Polar bears are endemic to the Arctic Circle and its surrounding land masses and sea. Polar bears spend most of their time on the sea ice, and for that reason it's classified as a marine mammal. The trophic classification of the polar bear is heterotrophic, carnivorous, apex predator of the Arctic. And that makes him a tertiary consumer. It hunts seals via the sea ice. Now the problem is that due to global warming, the seasonal ice is melting sooner, so it's actually forcing the polar bear to become a secondary consumer, eating fish and seabirds. And actually, because it's spending more time on land and does not have enough time to hunt seals because of the ice melting sooner, it's actually scavenging for food on land and causing a lot of problems. Polar bear reproduction. So mating season is from late spring to early summer. Females are 4 to 5 years at sexual maturity. Males are 6 years at sexual maturity. However, they do not mate until 8 to 10 years of age. The males can smell females from 19 miles away. There are 3 male polar bears to every fertile female polar bear. So the men do have to fight for the female. Now, it's usually not fatal. However, the stronger polar bear wins, and the male and female couple off for a week, consummating their relationship many, many times. Female polar bears go through something called induced ovulation. The act of intercourse actually causes her to release the egg for fertilization. Polar bears mate in the spring, however, the female becomes pregnant in the fall. Female polar bears breed once every 3 years. They have 1 to 3 cubs, though it's usually 2, and they stay with their cubs for 2 to 3 years. The habitat and niche of the polar bear. The sea ice of the Arctic is where polar bears hunt, breed, and live. It's their preferred habitat. Polar bears need the pack ice to hunt seals. The bears lie in wait at the seals' breathing holes. Because the sea ice changes seasonally, the polar bear does not have a home range like other bear species do. The polar bear is forced onto land in the summer months. Before global warming, polar bears would limit their travel range to a few hundred miles. The pack ice is critical for the polar bears because it needs blubber from the seals to maintain its own body fat so that it can withstand the Arctic freezing temperatures. Polar bear niche. Polar bears are at the top of the food chain in the Arctic ecosystem. It has no known predators other than man, and it is a specialized predator of seals. Polar bears keep the seal population under control. Keeping biological populations in balance is critical to the functioning ecosystem of the Arctic. Okay, so the interspecific relations. All right, the polar bear has no competition, and it is the apex predator of the Arctic. Polar bears are mainly predators of seals and occasionally whales and walrus. The prey are harmed, and the polar bear benefits. Polar bears have commensalism with the Arctic fox. The Arctic fox is a scavenger that eats the carcass of whatever the polar bear leaves behind. The roundworm Trichinella has a parasitism relationship with the polar bear. When the bear feeds on Trichinella-infected seals, the Trichinella encrusts on parts of the body of the polar bear, and then the Trichinella benefits and the polar bear is harmed. The World Conservation Union has named the polar bear as threatened due to the climate change effects on the Arctic ice melting. Sea ice is the main habitat for polar bears. Global warming causes sea ice to melt and makes the water darker. The darker water absorbs the heat of the sun, causing the ice to melt even faster. The loss of summer ice means less time for the polar bears to hunt for seals and forces them to travel farther on land in search of food. This causes the polar bear to lose precious fat storage, which is necessary for summer months. The polar bear was the first mammal to be listed as threatened due to global warming.